Hey, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to our Writer's Bookshelf series. We're on day 13 now, and I had to go through and actually see what's in my bookshelf that is worth covering next, because we've done a lot of structure books already, and there's a point where we got to just really write the book and not just, you know, write, but like kind of know what to put in the book, and not just, hit the structure points, but actually think about, the skin of the book, like, the characters, the situations, all that. And I was trying to think, like, what do I have that really is good for that? And I know there's books that I do want to cover at some point, but I think the ones I want to cover I don't actually own yet. So I have to go back and kind of dig through there. But I still want to go through, because we're going to end the season on book 16, and I want to make sure that I know what we're going to do for the 16th book. I want to make sure that we have a good lead up to that book, and so that means I want to make sure that the next couple books are things that deal with the content of the story, and making sure that it gets done. So to reiterate the series so far, if you've forgotten what we did early on, we started off with Stephen King's own writing. We went to Anne Lamont's Bird by Bird, and then we went through the three books that Larry Brooks started on story structure, and then we just kept on going through the structural plane with a couple interruptions between openings and then the reader's mindset. For the most part, we stuck pretty close to structure, and I think we need a little bit of time to focus on scenes and just kind of overview. And when I went through my bookshelf, the thing that jumped out at me was this book, Just Right, by James Scott Bell. And the reason why I'm picking this one for this week, even though it's still a lot of the same, is, as I've been explaining, there's a lot of overlap. I like this passage, and again, this is a random page I flipped to, but I think it expresses a lot of what I want to kind of show you in this series. And this is page 137. Okay, it's going to be a two-section read. The first is called Loving the Feeling of Being a Writer More Than the Writing. The second is Letting Negative People Get to You. Okay. Loving the feeling of being a writer more than writing. The most important thing a writer does, said the late Robert B. Parker, is produce. Don't fall into the trap of writing a few words as in a journal, lingering over the wonderful vibrations of being alive with the tulips of creativity budding within your brain, leaving it at that. You've got to get some sweat equity going into this game. I don't mean you have to crank it out like some pulp writer behind in his rent, although I like this model myself, but you do have to have some sort of quota, even if it is a small one. Writing only when you feel like it is not the mark of a professional. Now, this is something that Stephen Pressfield will echo. Stephen King will echo this. All the Stephens, I think this is James, but that's an important part of being the writer, is showing up and doing the work, right? And I think we've expressed that in different places throughout the series. I know I'm guilty of that. I don't really show up half the time. I'm half the time more interested in watching YouTube or making videos for YouTube or playing a video game or something, because I have a short attention span, and I just can't always stay with my story for hours on end. Sometimes I got to put it aside and go grab a cookie or something, go for a walk, have a coffee. The coffee cup is still empty. Just sorry, I don't know what resolution this will be, so I'll bring the coffee cup in a little for you. But yeah, I like to put things off. I like to procrastinate because it's easy. And writing is not easy, and I hope that you've learned by now, if you're 13 weeks into this series, writing is not easy. It's hard. It's hard stuff. It's easy to write words. It's hard to make them make sense. It's hard to make them fun. It's hard to like what you wrote, and showing up is part of the challenge, because you don't want to show up. You hate. You're going to learn to hate writing. Honestly, you do it because the end product is great, but unless you really love your story, it's hard. And that's something else to keep in mind too. My favorite author has an opinion about that. But when you're reading a story, those authors you read, they didn't get there easily. They're not magic. They're not they didn't conjure something up. They had to work at it. They had to sit down and think, like, how do I do this? So James Scott Bell, he's reiterating the fact that it's not easy, but you show up. Letting negative people get to you. So illegitimi non carbon non-gem, it's Latin. Don't let the bastards get you down is the quote. Next time that know-it-all says you just haven't got the stuff to be a writer, smile and repeat this Latin phrase. And as he looks at you puzzled, turn your back, get to your computer, and proceed to prove him wrong. And plan to make the next 12 months the most productive of your writing life. So this section is about facing your fear. It's about, it's acknowledging that it's not an easy thing, but you need to do it anyway. The theme of the book is just right. It's telling you, look, who cares if it's hard? Who cares if you don't know what you're doing? Just do it anyway. It may not work itself out immediately, but that's part of the process, is learning what it takes to get better. So the premise of this book, I'm going to read the back again, because again, this is more of a catch-all book. It's not really about one particular element. It's about several things. So here's the back. And for all your readers, love the process and become the writer you were meant to be. Okay. Writers are given a wealth of opportunities to cultivate a successful writing life, break out and find an audience for their work. Yet so many writers, from beginners to veterans, find their careers just stuck in neutral. The solution is simple: just write. Write yourself past fears, doubts, and setbacks, and use your desire for writing excellence to deeply immerse yourself in the craft. In Just Write, best-selling author and veteran writing coach James Scott Bell shows you how to develop unforgettable stories while leading a rewarding writing life. You'll learn how to master the nuances of fiction, discover what readers really want, and persevere through the challenges of getting started, conquering writer's block, and dealing with rejection. So look inside to discover how to brainstorm new concepts for your fiction and develop a believable premise, create memorable characters that keep your readers coming back for more, study classic and contemporary novels to improve your writing, effectively market yourself as a writer, and manage your time to maintain peak efficiency. Fulfilling writing careers are developed through hard work and investment in practice and complete dedication to the process. Don't succumb to excuses or procrastination. Dive into your career with gusto and enthusiasm. Fall in love with writing every day. Just write. So that's the premise of the book. Again, it's a bit of a catch-all, but catch-alls are good. Catch-alls, again, goes back to inspiration. By now, you probably have an idea in your head that you want to work on. Now you got to just write it. This is, again, going to help you, actually adapt your idea to the page in a way that inspires you to do the work. So it'll, cover some of the basics, like there's a section here called Allies and Irritants. The hero of your story will need some help to attain his goal. That's the mentor, right? Or the ally. An example of an ally is Han Solo in Star Wars. He's there to help Luke Skywalker. I'm sure you've seen Star Wars, and unless you're 20-year-old me, who took too long to watch it for the first time. But don't worry, I've seen it since. It's fine. Although I haven't seen the latest one. I really need to watch that. Well, I don't need to. After part A, I don't know if I want to, but I hear it's better, so we'll see. But little things like that. It does cover some of your essentials, but it asks you important questions. Is there enough at stake? I always stress that the stakes of a story must be death. I talked about death earlier in this chapter. Remember, there are 3 kinds of death: physical, professional, and psychological or spiritual. The core issue in your novel has to be one of these, or the book will not be the best it can be. For example, in a legal thriller, the kind where the story is about a trial, that central case of the story has to be a matter of professional life and death for the lawyer. In the verdict, Paul Newman is a bottom-feeding lawyer. No, that's not redundant. Thank you very much. He has lost all self-respect. He drinks too much. His professional life is just about over. So that's kind of interesting, right? So he's clearly has to save his profession or his career. And why do we care about saving a career? Well, sometimes that's how we, it's not. For some people, it's how it defines them. For others, it's just how they survive. But death of a career could lead to physical death if it leads to poverty. So little things like that. But it goes through a lot of little bits in here that I think are useful for reminding you what's important about a story and what's important in your development of the story. So if you're looking for a catch-all book, this is it. Just Write by James Scott Bell. It covers, again, it's like a distilled version of Robert McKee's story. But for novels and things. But it does one thing that a lot of these books don't, and that's dealing with the writing lifestyle. That almost goes back to Anne Lamont's book about writing, and it shows you how to get past your own hurdles that you set for yourself. It reminds you that, you know, part of the job is showing up. It doesn't require you to be perfect. It just requires you to do the work. And I just, you know, this is one of those books where I don't think it covers any one thing in super depth, but it gives you enough in there that if you feel like you do need to further research it, at least you have a jumping off point, so you can keep on going. But I do think that of what it covers, it's pretty effective. So hopefully by now, if you're caught up on the reading assignments, you're going to probably like this one. It's it's going to cover some things that we haven't really put a lot of effort and time into. So it won't be new, but it'll be, you know, inspirational, I think. And it'll really kind of get you wanting to write your book, I believe. So anyway, that's Just Right by James Scott Bell. Do check it out. I think it's at all the usual places. I believe this one is still on the bookshelf at Barnes & Noble, so you may be able to go straight there and pick it up in person. I don't think it's a new book. I think most of these are not new anymore, but it's 2016, so it's new enough that's probably at Barnes & Noble. Anyway, because they only do 12 a year that are new. So, all right. Well, with that said, check it out, and then come back next week for our next. There'll probably be another item-specific book. I just don't know which one yet, but we'll talk about that, and then don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more like it. Mention in the comments below any book that you've seen that you want to hear more about. If I have it on the bookshelf, I'll hopefully put that on the queue either for season 2 or season 3. As I'm doing these, I'm kind of getting more of an idea what I want to do for season 2. You'll notice that I haven't gotten into a lot of the research stuff yet, or marketing or anything like that. That's probably going to be stuff that I do more for part 2 or season 2. So I just want to make sure that this season is our craft season, and we're nearing the end. We've got 3 books left to go, so hopefully you'll stick around for those last 3. And until then, have a good week. Come back Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, or after work, if that falls into a work shift. And tell all your friends to write. And once again, if you have something you want viewers of this channel to check out, go ahead and post a link to your blog in the comments below. Send us or point us into a sample chapter of what you're working on, and maybe some kind soul here will give you feedback. No promises. It's not a very active channel right now, but maybe one day it can be, and you can help get us active by liking, subscribing, sharing, doing all that fun stuff. So anyway, hope you're having a good day, and hope my clapping's not irritating you. Have a good one.